Okay, what is concentration? How many of you are having this problem? I'm finding it very difficult to concentrate, but I'm not sure why. Huh?
Prabhuji, myself.
Who's that? Akila?
Sometimes in online class, I lose
So
concentration,
you know now,
Prabhuji.
you know why you cannot concentrate, right? Why? So many distractions, right? Okay, so concentration is being able to focus the mind on one thing and hold it steadily there without letting it wander. Correct? So mind, is very difficult to control, right? We studied in Bhagavad Gita, no? What is that? Mana chanchalam balavad dridam. You remember that shloka? Vayureva sudushkaram tasyaham nigraham manye Vayureva sudushkaram. You remember that shloka? It is very difficult to control the mind. Controlling the wind is more easier than controlling the mind. Who is telling? Arjuna is telling Krishna, Krishna, it's very difficult for me to control my mind. Controlling the wind is easier for me. Now he's so strong that he can control the wind, but mind he cannot. Even Arjuna is telling, such a great person is telling he cannot control the mind. Vayureva sudushkaram. Huh? So it's very difficult to control this. So here we are telling concentration. Concentrate the mind on one thing. It's so difficult, right? In that Krishna advises. What he says? It's very difficult to control the mind, but by abhyasenata, abhyasa and vairagya, two things he says. Krishna says, by constant practice and by detachment. Vairagya. No? So what are these two things you have to keep in mind? One thing is what? Constant practice. So even if you cannot concentrate, try to concentrate. Keep on practicing it every day. You will be able to concentrate. Just like Srinidhi was telling the other day, concentrate on the candle. No, there is an exercise every day they do it. So this is by repetition. By doing this process of focusing the mind on something, you can by abhyasena. We are applying it here. Actually, that is a spiritual advice given by Krishna. But here we are applying it to our material study process. I'm telling you. So you have to focus your mind with abhyasa and vairagya. Vairagya means what? Detaching yourself from unwanted things like what? Your mobile, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. All those things are unwanted things, right? You have to do vairagya from that. You should develop vairagya from that. You should, detach yourself from that. So the difference between an ordinary person and a great person is in the ability to concentrate. If you are able to concentrate, you can conquer great places. You can become successful. You can become a great personality. If you cannot do that, you'll be just an ordinary person. Nobody will remember you. Nobody will know you. You'll be one among millions of people. You will not make a difference to the society. You will not make a difference to yourself, to your family. Nobody will know you. Huh? Understood? No? Even spiritually also, if you take, you'll become a very ordinary person. Spiritual people are very special, right? How many people are spiritually advanced? Very, very few people in the world, right? So they are special people, one among millions. So if you want to do that, you should be able to concentrate. Pay fullest attention to what you're doing. You're studying, 100% study. Okay. So there's a saying, no? Sleep while you sleep, play while you play, eat while you eat. No? There's a nursery rhyme, right? You remember that? So when you're doing something, do that. Do it 100%. For example, you're brushing your teeth, do it 100%. 100% brushing your teeth. Okay. When you're eating, do only eating. Concentrate on that. Do it 100%. So whatever you do it 100%. During our youth retreat program, we had given a small exercise to children. We had distributed grapes to everyone. One grape to everybody. And we had asked them to first feel the grape, see the grape, see the shape of the grape, feel the color of the grape, feel the weight of it, roll it on your hand, feel the texture of its, skin, then slowly put it into your mouth. And the children were told not to bite it. They were asked to feel it with the tongue, with the sides of their mouth. Okay. Then after some time, slowly bite it, one small bite. And when the small little juice falls into your mouth, feel the taste of it. Okay. then slowly bite it and chew it and then swallow it. So children may ask the experience about that afterwards, and they said they had never enjoyed eating a grape like this before. Many times we had eaten grapes, we just pop so many grapes into our mouth, and we really don't enjoy that. But here, when you're eating just one grape, you could enjoy it so nicely. So whatever, if you do it 100%, you can enjoy it so nicely. I actually learned this exercise when I did my Art of Living course. In the Art of Living course, they had done this exercise. That's what I repeated in the youth retreat program. Okay, so pay fullest attention to whatever you're doing. So the capacity of a brain, our capacity to concentrate, if you know, there immense capacity to concentrate. You can do very fine work, whichever requires even so much of concentration. 126 bits per second is the cognitive capacity of the brain. So many things can be grasped within a very short period. So if not usefully, boredom develops. So if you don't concentrate on something, you get bored, you'll feel lazy, you'll feel like this life is hopeless, you won't feel like living. No, what is this boring life? You feel like that. So every second, whatever you're doing, if you do it with concentration, fullest concentration, you'll enjoy doing it. Okay. Otherwise, boredom develops. So there's something called a concept called as flow. There is a subject called as positive psychology. It's a recent branch of psychology, which was developed by a few psychologists, who took interest in this particular positive psychology. And one very famous person among that was called Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. His name is very difficult to pronounce. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. This guy, he did a lot of research on this, and he coined a term called as flow. Now, you know what is flow? For example, if you're into something which you enjoy doing a lot, and if you're very skillful in that, okay? For example, you like to sing, you like singing, and you have practiced so much that your skill in singing is so nice. You're an expert in singing. So once you start singing, you will get into a flow, because singing is very easy for you because you know singing and you love singing a lot, and you're doing it with 100% involvement. And that state is called as flow. So flow is known as also known as the zone, is a mental state of operation in which a person performing an activity is fully immersed in a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the process of the activity. In essence, flow is characterized by complete absorption in what one does. And this term was coined by a person called as Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Okay, for example, somebody is drawing. He's drawing something, and he's an expert in drawing, and he loves drawing. The state which he gets into is called flow. He's absorbed in it. He's doing it full heart. So any activity, not only singing, not only drawing, any activity, even studying also, you can get into a flow. Understood, no? So initially, children are forced to study, they ask you parents ask you to study, and you don't like studying. Because of their force, you sit and study. But slowly in that, some intelligent children, what happened? Anyway, my parents have told me to study. Let me focus on this, And when I finish my studies, I can focus on other things. So say slowly start focusing on the studies. Slowly, they start getting interest in that, And very soon they see when the exam comes, they start getting good marks. Oh, then they feel great, when I'm getting better marks than before. So then they'll study even better. So then they slowly, so they become experts in studying. They start loving what they're doing, And some people, they get so much absorbed into studies, they just love studies. Then nobody has to force them. They don't have to tell them, you sit and study. They just love studying. Studying becomes, you want to get back to your books. Even if you go for entertainment, you go for playing, very soon you want to come back to your books. And once you start getting into the book, you start studying, just love, you know all the techniques of studying. I told you, you have to take frequent breaks. You have to, concentrate on what you're doing. And when you know the techniques, studying becomes very nice. For example, you're reading so much, and you're not getting any marks, no input. No output at all. You're not getting anything, not getting results. You get bored, right? You don't want to study. I'm studying so much, still I'm not getting good marks. You won't feel like studying again. But the moment you start studying well and you start scoring marks, and each time you feel, oh, my marks are improving, everybody starts noticing, oh, this guy is scoring better marks than before. Oh, Shreya is getting 100% nowadays. She's getting, earlier she used to get 60, now she's getting 90%, she's getting 95%. Your parents start congratulating, your friends start telling, oh, she's an intelligent girl, she's studying well. You feel better, right? You want to even further improve. what I was telling is, so we can get into flow even in studies. When you start studying, when you know the technique of how to study, you know how to concentrate well, you know how to improve your memory. Studying becomes a pleasure. Nobody has to force you. You're thirsty for knowledge. You want to know more and more things. And you want to feel that gratification, like when you're getting good marks, you're getting the output. You start loving your studies. That state is called as flow. So I'm telling you, you can get into a flow even in studies also, not only in your co-curricular activities. Even in studies you can get into a flow. If you don't get into a flow, what happens? There is a very high chance that you get into boredom. Boredom is just the opposite of flow, because you are not an expert in it. You're not an expert in studies. You're not able to concentrate full on studies. You're not able to get into that full involvement in study. You're not enjoying the process. Boredom develops. You don't want to study. Even though you're sitting in front of your books, you won't study. Even if you're reading something, nothing is entering your head. Just to fool somebody, or just to satisfy your parents, or just to for namesake, naams ki vaste, you'll just be sitting in front of the books. And what will happen? You're not enjoying also. You're sitting in front of the book and wasting your time also. You're not getting anything out of it. When the marks come, very sorry figure, very, very low marks. And when the academic year is over, for example, if you're preparing for a competitive exam, what happens? You won't qualify. Correct? You won't get anything. You're a loser in the end. So to become a winner in the end, you don't have to focus on the winning situation. You don't have to focus on the result. Just like Krishna said, no, you don't focus on the result. Karmanne vadikarasya ma phaleshu kadachana. Even material things you can learn so many things from the Bhagavad Gita. You can apply it to your studies. You can apply it to your business. You can apply it to your daily life. That is the practicality of Bhagavad Gita. Understood? No, you can use it not only for it is actually meant for spiritual advancement. There's no doubt about that. But even in your material things, it can help you. That is the greatness of Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is telling you don't focus on the result. So here you're not focusing on your winning. You're not focusing upon your competitive exam result, or winning the exam, or passing the exam. You're just focusing on your studies. You're becoming into a flow. You're getting into a flow. Success will come by itself. You're getting my point? For example, a person who is singing and who is in flow, very soon he'll be recognized. Very soon he'll become popular. For example, A.R. Rahman, when he's making music, he never thought about becoming A.R. Rahman. He never thought about becoming a very great musician and making a name and fame. No, he just enjoyed doing music. He used to sit in front of his keyboard 24 hours, just work, because he loved it. He was in a flow most of the time. And very soon what happened? People started recognizing him. Now he's one of the greatest musicians in the world, and he's earning in millions. Everybody knows him. Correct? Similarly, for example, if you're an artist, or if you're a sportsman, or you're an athlete, or you're a cyclist, whatever, if you're in a flow in your field, if you're enjoying doing it, very soon people will start recognizing you. Result will come by itself. But don't focus on the result, because when you're focusing on the result, you will not do good in your niche, whatever you're doing. For example, if you're focusing on the result, you won't do good in your studies. An artist, if he thinks I should become the best artist in the world, he'll never become the best artist, because his focus is on becoming the artist, not on the art itself, not on the process itself. Hope you're understanding what I'm telling you. No, a person who wants to become a great athlete, he thinks, I should get the Olympic medal. If he's thinking only about the medal, he will never get it, because he's not focusing on his athletics. He should focus on his athletics. He shouldn't think about the gold medal at all. Gold medal will come. If he gets into flow, it will come. Similarly, if you focus into your study, if you try to become, get into flow in your studies, success will come. There is no other way. Success has to come. Hope you can understand this. Okay. So try to get into flow. I took more time. I'm stressing on this again and again so that you can understand what I'm telling you. I find it very difficult to convey it to you. That's why I'm spending more time on this. Hope you understood. Can I move forward? Okay.
Yes, Broji.
Yes. 1 second. Okay. So this one you see here. This is the thing I was telling you. See, if your challenge level is very high and your skill level is very low, okay, what happens? It's called apathy. You don't want to do it, or you cannot do it. You know, it's a low challenge level, and your skill level is very low. You don't feel like doing it at all. Now your challenge is very high, and your skill level is very low. You'll have anxiety. Can you give an example here? For example, tomorrow is the exam, okay? And you haven't studied anything. Your skill level is very low. Challenge is very high, okay? Tomorrow is exam. You have not studied anything. What will happen? What will happen?
Anxiety.
Anxiety. You'll be in so much tension. Correct, no? Exam is very far. Exam is very far after 3 months, and your skill level is very low. It's called what? Apathy. You're not bothered at all. You'll be enjoying life. You're not thinking about studies at all. Okay. Now your skill level is slightly better. Okay. Slightly better. But the challenge level is very low. There's no challenge at all. You have no exam to face at all. But you know a lot of things. So you're not interested at all. It will be very boring. Okay. Now the challenge level is very high, but your skill level is in between. This is arousal. Like you feel like I should do something more, you know, I should improve myself. Now your challenge level is very high and your skill level is very high. You're in a state of flow. Understood, no? This is called flow. Your challenge level is also very high and you're fully involved in it. You're preparing for NEET exam. NEET exam is tomorrow and you're fully, you know, prepared. You know everything. You know everything. Tomorrow is a NEET exam. You know everything. You have studied. You have done your 100%. You know that whatever exam, whatever question comes, I can do it well. And then you'll be in flow when you're writing the exam. Nobody can stop you. And success will come by itself. You don't have to focus on the success at all. Okay. And this is just for your information. See, if the challenge level is very low and your what do you call, your skill level is very high, you'll be relaxed. No, you can do things very relaxed. If the challenge level is in between, you will be in control. But if the challenge level is very high and your skill level is very high, that's a state called as flow. Understood, no? So at your ultimate performance, you will be in flow. When A.R. Rahman is doing a concert in front of 1 lakh or 2 lakh people, he's in flow. Okay. When your, what do you call, the favorite cricket player is playing in the field with, you know, with a very strong opposite team, and that match is a final match, and you know they'll be getting the World Cup with that. If he's a very good player, if Sachin Tendulkar is playing, he'll be in flow. Okay. Can you give one more example for flow? Just to know whether you have understood that. Anybody can give. Fast before we move. Somebody should tell. Open up fast, quick.
When professional teachers are teaching us, they will be in flow.
Okay. One more example where the challenge level is very high and skill level is very high.
The competitive exams.
That I already told. No?
All India level exams. All India level.
A.R. Rahman is performing in front of a very big crowd. He's in flow. One example I told you. Sachin performing in the World Cup finals. He's in flow. Like that, I want one example. Nobody is there?
Prabhuji, Olympics, representing a country and winning gold medal.
Not winning gold medal. You're playing for that. You're running for the final you know, 100 meter race. You're playing there and you're prepared all your life for that. Okay. Okay. So we'll move forward. So this is about flow. How does it feel to be in flow? You'll be completely involved. No, you're in a sense of ecstasy. You're just loving it. You're not doing it out of some compulsion. You're not doing it for your parents. You're not doing it for somebody else. You're doing it for yourself. You're just enjoying it, you know. And you've got great inner clarity. You know what has to be done. You know how to study. You know how to go about. You know how to revise. You know how frequently I should revise. You know what and all I should study. All the preparation material is ready with you. All the previous year question papers are ready with you. You know what they're going to ask for the exam. You know exactly like, what would be the exam like. You know the competition level. You know how many people are taking the exam. You know where you stand. You have the great inner clarity. Then there's a sense of serenity. No worries about oneself. You're egoless because you're not worried. You're not bothered about the result at all. You're not bothered about the result at all. You're just involved in the process. So nobody needs to motivate you. It's intrinsic motivation. Nobody has to tell you study, 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 study. No, nobody has to remind you. You're just enjoying your studies because you're an expert at that. Nobody can beat you. You love your subject. You love studies. You're loving reading. You're loving to sit in front of the book. You're loving to get information. You're just physics and mathematics, which you felt boring before, now seems to be more and more better. You're enjoying it. Every process you're enjoying. That's called intrinsic motivation. And timelessness. Even if you sat 1 hour in front of your book, you feel, oh, otherwise if you're bored, what happened? You'll start looking at your watch. Why this 1 hour is not getting over, right? Correct, no? Just like now I'm taking the class, you want to, when will this guy finish? No? So when you're bored, you'll start looking at your watch. But if you're in flow, you'll feel timelessness. Why it got over so soon, you'll feel. Correct, no? Okay, so one more tool which I had shared during the youth retreat was this Sri Chakra. This is not the perfect Sri Chakra, but this was adopted from the Sri Chakra. If you can take a printout of this, and keep it in front of your table, when your study table, and once in a while look at that and focus on the center of it, center of this chakra, then you slowly, as you start focusing on the center, slowly you'll feel that your attention is going here and there, but try to again bring it back to the center. And after some time, you close and visualize this chakra in your mind. Okay? You concentrate and stare at the center for some time, then visualize it in your mind. So this has got 2 advantages. One is the same process which you said, focusing on the candle, no? And visualization. That benefit also you get. And not only that, this Sri Chakra is such a powerful tool. It's Devi's chakra actually. Okay, so it has got a powerful tool that it has got so many geometric complications which we don't know. Okay, it's a very, very complicated chakra. So what happens? Your mind, your left and right brain gets synchronized in such a way that it tries to focus on all the triangles here, all the shapes, all the geometric shapes here. So it will start stimulating your brain. Okay, and when you do this every day, you will become a perfection. You will become your memory will improve, your concentration will improve, and it will help you to get in flow. Okay, so if you can download this from the internet. Earlier, during the course, we used to take printout and give it to children. You can just take this from the Google and print it out. I prefer you to take a green color than this red one. Here I've shown a red one. When you Google and find a green chakra, that will be better. Don't take the original chakra, okay? The original chakra is, it needs to be kept in a very nice way, It should be kept in the proper way, proper position and all that. And you should do, it's supposed to be, worshipped in a particular way and all that, the real chakra. So this is not the complete chakra. It's a, it's a modified version of that, you can say. Okay. So here are some tips for you to improve your concentration, improve your studies. So first, clear your mind of all distractions. You remember that first picture? I'm not able to concentrate. I don't know why. Now you know why you're not able to concentrate. No, remove everything which distracts you from your room of study. When you're sitting to study, remove all distractions. Don't keep your mobile near you when you're studying. That's the greatest distraction these days, right? Don't keep your mobile, or keep it in flight mode. And you promise yourself that you won't remove that flight mode until you finish your studies. Nowadays, there are children who are, even while attending school online, they're checking their Instagram profiles. Okay, that is a very bad thing to do. You cannot get into flow. Then next is meditation. As I told you, you can do meditation on all these kind of meditations. You can do candle meditation or Sri Chakra meditation, whatever. And mantra meditation is very important for us, especially for Krishna devotees. We should do chanting. So you fix the time for yourself, either in the morning or evening. Morning is the best time to do. So morning, at least, your fixed rounds, 3 or 4 rounds, whatever you feel is comfortable for you. You commit yourself to do that, and every day you chant that rounds. No, don't miss it. Eat sattvic food. So food also we studied in Bhagavad Gita. Food is there in the mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. No, 3 types of food. Choose food in sattva guna, food in the mode of goodness. Tamasic and rajasic food you avoid. You at least when you're studying now, it's very important. So do not jump from one book to another within every few minutes. Give a continuous reading over a period of time to digest the information and also to concentrate, because focus is very important. When you start shifting from one book to other or one subject to other, your focus gets disturbed. Okay. Pre-plan in advance for change of subjects to avoid monotony. So you can make a list like, today I'm going to study from such and such time to such and such time. I'm studying physics. From this time to this time, I'm studying chemistry, like that. Okay.
Prabhuji, sattvic food you can say in a few words to children who may not know.
Yeah, because food in the mode of goodness, food in the mode of passion, food in the mode of ignorance. That satoguna foods are what? Rasya snigdha sthira hridya ahara satvika. I forgot the verse. Rasya snigdha sthira hridya. Rasya means what? It's full of juice, juicy, fresh and juicy. Rasya snigdha. Snigdha means what? To touch, it is very soft and smooth. Snigdha sthira. It is not putrid. It is not, it is stable. Rasya snigdha sthira hridya. Hridya means it's very dear to the heart. Rasya snigdha sthira hridya ahara satvika priya. Okay. So satvika priya means people who are in the sattva guna, they like food in this, having these qualities, which is fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, fresh grains. These are fresh food, sattva guna food. Rasya snigdha sthira hridya ahara satvika priya. Then the rajoguna foods are what? I'm forgetting the verses.
Maybe Prabhu, onion and garlic, they come under Rajogunam, no?
Rajoguna, no, onion and garlic comes under tamoguna. Okay. Tamoguna. Rajoguna is what? Food which makes you thirsty. Food which makes you thirsty is in Rajoguna. Very spicy, very hot. Okay? That kind of food. And food which is Tamoguna is food which is pungent, stinking, smelling. Which is Yatayamam ghatarasam. Yatayamam ghatarasam puti paryushitam chayat. Puti paryushitam chayat. That is the sloka for that tamoguna food. It is Yatayamam. Yatayamam means what? Time is got. Yama means time. Yata means elapsed. Time gone means what? Expired food. The expiry date of the food is over. Like, food cooked more than 6 hours is considered to be expired. So food cooked 6 hours, before is called Yatayamam. Gatarasam. Gatarasam means rasam is gone. There is no juiciness in it. Gatarasam. Puti paryushitam chayat. Puti means what? It is putrid, pungent. Paryushitam, decomposed. Decomposed food. Puti paryushitam chayat. Yatayamam gatarasam puti paryushitam chayat. Uchishtam samichamedyam aharam tamasapriyam. Uchishtam means what? Leftovers. Somebody's leftovers you're eating. Uchishtam amedyam. Amedyam means what? Things which should not be touched. Such things if you're eating. What should not be touched? Stool, urine, flesh, blood, sweat, mucus. These things are things which you shouldn't touch. If you touch it, immediately you have to purify yourself. If you touch stool by mistake, what you'll do? Immediately you should take bath. If you touch blood, you should immediately take bath. If you touch mucus, you should immediately take bath. Now, in the time of corona, hygiene, all that are untouchable things. You see a lab technician, why they wear a glove? Why doctors wear a glove? And they'll be handling urine and blood in the laboratory, Why they wear a glove? Because they know it is, it should not be touched. The untouchable things they are. Such things if you make your food, just imagine. So there are people who eat stool, urine, flesh. Flesh is what actually? Flesh contains all this in it. Flesh contains stool and urine, sweat and mucus. Everything is there in flesh. It has been excreted later, right? So it's a part of the flesh in one way. So when you're eating flesh, you're eating all this. Blood is there. Blood is part of the flesh. All the blood is not in the blood vessels. It is there in the flesh also, right? So the contents of the blood is there. Flesh is there in that. So flesh, blood, everything you're eating. So if you eat some things like that, it is in the tamoguna. Understood, no? So that's why we are telling you should eat sattvic food. Don't eat non-vegetarian food and all. So non-vegetarian food comes in what? Tamoguna. Understood, no? Food which is very spicy, hot and all that, it comes in Rajoguna. Sorry, I forget the verses. Huh?
Prabhuji, actually, why is onion and garlic considered as tamas guna? Because it comes under Rajoguna because it is spicy and hot.
Yeah, because onion and garlic, onion especially makes you very dull. If you eat it, you become very dull. Okay, that is why it's considered in tamoguna for especially people who are doing spiritual activities. They need a lot of energy, right? So they need a lot of positive energy. When you eat onion, it brings a lot of negative energy. That is why they say you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't eat that. Okay. If somebody, meanwhile, if you can just open Bhagavad Gita and remember, get that shloka for me, that Sattva-guna food, no? If you can search that, Yata Yamam Gatarasam, if you choose, if you search for Yata Yamam Gatarasam, just the shloka before that is the Rajoguna food.
Prabhuji, I think it is
Rajoguna food.
Katwamla
Katwamla Lavana Atyushna Tikshna Ruksha Vidahina. Then what is that? Tikshna Vidahina. Vidahina.
Prabhuji, I don't remember the
Ahara
Rajasapriya. No? Katwamla. Katwa means very bitter. No? Amla means sour. Ruksha, Tikshna, Ruksha. Tikshna means very, very Tikshna, very strong, pungent, strong. Ruksha, Vidahina. Dahina means to make you thirsty. When you eat that food, you'll feel thirsty. You'll feel like drinking water immediately after eating that food. That food is in Rajoguna. Okay. This sloka is also very important.
Can you give some examples for Rajoguna so that we can avoid?
What is that?
Some examples for Rajoguna.
Examples for very spicy food, very hot food, very pungent food, very, very bitter food, very, very sour food, cooked food which is very sour, where you add a lot of vinegar. Pickles, for example. Pickle is very, very spicy. No? Pickle, if you eat one spoon of pickles they use very little, right? But if you eat 1 spoon of pickle, immediately you feel like drinking water. Correct, no? Huh?
Yes, Prabhu.
Paneer chili, paneer Manchurian, all those things if you make with a lot of chili and all that spicy, no? All that, next moment you feel like drinking water. So that is in Rajoguna. Katwamla Tikshna Ruksha Vidahina. Everything is there in Bhagavad Gita. So this sloka, you see, Ahara Shuddhau Sattva Shuddhi, Sattva Shuddhau Dhruva Smriti, Dhruva Smriti Lambe Sarva Grantinam Vipra Mokshaha. Ahara Shuddhau Sattva Shuddhi. If you want to purify your sattva, sattva means your existence. Your existence is called your sattva. No, your sattva is your existence. If you want to purify your existence, what you should do? You should have ahara shuddhi. You should have purity in your eating. By eating food which is pure, you purify yourself. So ahara shuddha sattva shuddhi. Sattva shuddha dhruva smriti. Smriti means what? Your memory. Smriti becomes dhruva. Dhruva means what? Fixed. Dhruva means strong, Dhruva Maharaj story, Dhruva, why is called Dhruva? Because he was fixed in his purpose. So when something is fixed, Dhruva it's called. So if you want to fix your memory, you want to make it very strong, if you have Sattva Shuddhi, your memory will be strong. Then Sarva Grantinam, all your finer tissues, everything becomes very strong and fine. And Vipra Moksha, you become ready for liberation. So even in spiritual life, food is very important. Similarly, even material life also, in your studies also, it's very important. So by eating food sanctified, the food sanctifies your very existence. your existence becomes purified. By purification of existence, finer tissues of memory become sanctified. And when memory is sanctified, one can walk the path of liberation. Okay. So avoid distraction, be away from time wasters, sit with proper posture, think one at a time. Get up early in the morning for studies. This is very important. Very, very, very important. Getting up early in the morning is very important. This is called as Brahma Muhurta. How many of you know about Brahma Muhurta?
4 to 5 a.m.
Very good. What is Brahma Muhurta? Who is Brahma?
It is very
Brahman. Parabrahman. Who is Parabrahman? Krishna is Parabrahman, right? He is the supreme. So this Brahma Muhurta is Krishna's time. Most auspicious time. So that is 1.5 hours before sunrise. For example, if the sunrise is at 6 o'clock, 1.5 hours to 2 hours is Shreya went away. Huh? Shreya is not there.
I'm here only, Prabhu.
Oh, here, okay. So 1.5 hours to 2 hours before sunrise is called as Brahma Muhurta. So Prabhupada used to say 2 hours before the sunrise you should wake up for spiritual activities. Okay. So somebody who wakes up around 3:30 is a early riser, you can say. So if you wake up at that time, what happens? Your memory becomes very sharp, ready to receive anything. And if you do things at that time, it's very easy for you to get into flow. And not only that, when you're forced to wake up that early, you'll be forced to sleep early. And if you sleep early, for example, around 9:30 to 10 o'clock, you will get the best sleep. Because sleep also, it's the quantity of sleep and quality of sleep is there. We are supposed to sleep for around 6 to 8 hours, right? To get good sleep. But if you sleep after 11:30 or after 12 o'clock, the quality of sleep is so poor that even if you've slept for 6 hours, you sleep only in reality, you'll be sleeping only 3 hours. And this is scientifically proven also. If you sleep from around 9:30 to around 11 o'clock, that much sleep is enough to give you around 6 hours of sleep quality wise. So you have slept only 3 hours, but you're getting 6 hours of sleep. So sleeping 3 hours and getting 6 hours of rest. So intelligent people, what they do, they sleep early and wake up early. Prabhupada used to go to bed very early, and he used to get up very, very early. He used to get up around 2:45, 2 o'clock and all sometimes. Because he has already got his rest. Why are we sleeping actually? To get rest, right? For restfulness, we are sleeping. But we tend to sleep late and then sleep for hours together. And sometimes we physically sleep for 9 to 10 hours to get this 6 hours of sleep. That is why people are sleeping 8 hours, 9 hours and all, because they are not getting the proper rest. Actually, we need only 6 to 8 hours of sleep. So if you sleep that quality sleep, you have to sleep less. So sleep early to bed, early to rise. Makes whom wise and wise. What is it? I forgot that. Now there is a rhyme in school, no? KG class. Early to bed.
Makes a man healthy, wealthy and wise.
Makes what?
Makes a man healthy, wealthy and wise.
Yeah. Okay. So get up early. Brahma Muhurta. Okay. Get a dedicated clean space, chair, table, lighting and environment for your studies. Keep your study table very clean. Don't clutter it. Don't keep so many things on your table. Only your book, whatever you're studying, that book you keep there. No? Keep it very clean. If you want, you can keep one small Krishna's photo there so that your mind doesn't get distracted. No? So you'll remember him each time.
Prabhuji? Are we supposed to study or chant during Brahma Muhurta time?
As students, you should do both.
Prabhuji, can you suggest any time allocated for both separately?
Okay. For example, you're waking up at 4 o'clock. You fix the number of rounds you want to chant. For example, you're chanting 3 or 4 rounds or 5 rounds or 6 or 7 rounds. You do that at a stretch at that time. Early morning chanting is best for you. It will give you maximum benefit. So you do at that time. So whatever time you finish that, immediately get on to studies. So for example, you're chanting 4 rounds. You'll be taking around 20 minutes to chant. So 4 o'clock, if you wake up, you should wake up at around 3:50, 10 minutes to get ready, Either take shower, or if you cannot take shower, at least wash your face, wash your hands and feet with cold water. Don't use warm water, use cold water. Cold water stimulates, If you can take a shower, that is best. Okay, and if possible, put a tilak also. Tilak is very nice. You can, especially this point is very important. This point is called the glabella. This glabellar point is very good. It's for spiritual purpose, for studies and all. You should cool this area. So putting chandan, or gopi chandan, or sandal paste, whatever, it cools this area so nicely. You will not feel sleepy also. Here between the brows, So put tilak in the morning. First take a nice shower, put tilak, and sit to study. If you're chanting 4 rounds, chant in the morning, 4 to 4:20. 20 minutes will take for 4 rounds. So 20 minutes chant, then you bow down to Krishna. Do some Dandavat Namaskar. Bowing down to Krishna is very important. Doing Dandavat is very important. It's a good exercise also for you, physically also. And each time you do that Dandavat, Krishna blesses you more and more. Krishna says, Namaskuru. Bow down to me, Krishna says. So if you keep on bowing down to Krishna, it helps you. So whenever you feel sleepy, get up, go and do Dandavat Namaskar. When you sit, for example, you're studying, you're feeling sleepy, get up, go and do Dandavat Namaskar. Okay. So stick to a routine.
Prabhuji, can you say me what is Dandavat Namaskar?
Dandavat Namaskar. Danda means what? Danda is a stick. Okay. Danda means stick. To fall down like a stick. If you place a stick on the ground, how it will be straight, no? So like that. So you should fall down with your all your, from your tip of the hands to your tip of the toes, everything touching the ground. And your head touching the ground. You should fall and do Dandavat to Krishna. But for women, they don't suggest to do Dandavat. Women should do a half Dandavat. They can kneel on their knees, and touch the head on the ground. Touch your forehead on the ground. Okay.
Prabhuji, what is the difference between Shashtanga Namaskar and this Dandavat Namaskar?
Ashta Anga. So all your 8 limbs or 8 parts of the body touching the ground is called Sashtanga. Same thing is Dandavat. Danda is like a stick. When you fall like a stick, all these parts of the body touches the ground. Your hand, your forehead, your chest, your belly, okay, your legs, everywhere. All the body parts touches the ground. Okay. Okay. Stick to a routine, efficient study schedule. Focus on your studies. Focus on your subject. Don't think about anything else while studying. All other thoughts later at your break time. Okay. Incentivize your studies. Give incentives to yourself. You can say, like, if I study for 2 hours today, I'll reward myself with something. Might be a small chocolate, a small candy, or might be a small YouTube video. Okay. Whatever, which is not harmful to you. Something which will, enrich you. Such things, an entertainment which will not harm you. Always choose an entertainment which will, benefit you. So it becomes an entertainment also. It benefits you also. So that is the intelligence. Intelligently choose your entertainment. So if you're somebody, for entertainment, if they smoke, or entertainment they drink, or entertainment they take drugs, just imagine how unintelligent he is. He's such a fool, right? He's entertaining and killing himself. So for entertainment, choose something which is good for you. Okay. So choose a entertainment. Tell me.
Prabhuji, you said that for flow of the subject or flow of what we do, we need to stop giving importance to the result. So if we keep some incentives, it happens sometimes, not always, but sometimes it happens for that. Like it just becomes for the sake of that. Some people tend to do that. So,
initially, you're not in flow. Initially, you're not an expert. You need to incentivize yourself, because you're used to that. You always work for results, right? Most of us have known to work for results. So initially, to get into that, to get interest in your subject, to slowly get into flow, in the beginning, you're not in flow. You have to get into flow, right? So slowly to make your subject interesting for you. You don't have any interest in your subject. So just like I told you, initially parents force you study. And then once you start studying, slowly you get interest in that. I told you, right? Similarly, you don't wait for your parents to tell you. You incentivize yourself so that, you start getting hooked to it. So slowly, once you start getting hooked to it, then you don't need these incentives. This is just for beginners. The beginning stage, you need to incentivize yourself. Okay, later you don't need incentive. Okay. Your study itself, it's your incentive. You're enjoying the process. Once you're in flow, you don't need any incentive. Got it? and maximize your energy level. Maximizing your energy level is by what? By doing exercise, working out, I told you some exercise the other day, Vrikshasana, doing that exercise with your pulling your ear. You can work out with some dumbbells, small exercises. You can go cycling. You can do skipping. Girls can do skipping exercise, and eat sattvic food which energizes you. Okay. Mataji, tell me if I'm overshooting the time. I'm not looking at the time.
No problem, Prabhuji. Fine. It was nice, children. Nice.
No, it's 6 o'clock, Mataji. You take over, Mataji. The remaining things we'll study next class. Okay?
Okay.
Children, you're happy? Everybody?
Very nice. Very useful, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So hope you all will get into flow very soon. Start loving your subjects, loving your studies, and very soon you all people will be role models for others. Others will tell, I want to study like Pavitra. I want to study like Teju. I want to study like Krishna Priya. I want to study like Harinandan. I want to study like Akila. I want to study like Sage. I want to study like Hansika. I want to study like Rishikesh. I want to study like Anaga. I want to study like Kirtishri. I want to study like Srinanda. I want to study like Jayani. I want to study like Ishanishir. No? Like that, you like Rishikesh. Who is this left? Somebody with Krishna's photo. I don't know who is this. Okay. So like that, people will start, making you as role models. So all the best to you. So please take up these things very seriously. Try to get into flow, and very soon when you reach flow, you just tell me, okay? Prabhuji, I reached flow today. I'm waiting to hear that. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, children.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Now I will start. Children, last week, I will just do a recap of what all we finished till now. Rama asked, after Rama and Sugriva formed friendship, Rama asked Sugriva, what was the reason why you want to kill your own brother Vali? Because Rama wanted to see that just because Rama will never take part in any dharmic activity. So he wants to make sure, even though Sugriva is his friend, he wants to know whether he's, whatever he's doing is according to Dharma. If it is not according to Dharma, then Rama is not going to help. So that is what we have to learn from this. Okay, children? Then, so Rama asked what was the reason. Then we saw the story of these demons. Which is this demon? Anybody remembers?
Dundubai.
The demon in the form of... Yes,
Dundubai.
yes. Dundubi. And he had one more brother. Who was he?
Mayavi.
Mayavi. Dundubi used to roam in the form of a buffalo, and we saw that Vali killed him, and as a part of that killing, he got cursed from Madanga Rishi also, because Dundubi's blood splashed on Madanga Rishi's ashram. So Madanga Rishi cursed Vali that the killer of Dundubi cannot enter Rishimugha mountain. His head will break into pieces if he enters. Like that, Madanga Rishi cursed, and that we saw. Then after that we saw, after the killing of Dundubi, his brother Mayavi came. In that, children, I didn't tell you one thing. What actually happened, before entering into the burrow, Vali gave one instruction to Sugriva. He told him that, see, once Vali goes inside the burrow, it is very long, very lengthy, very deep. So he cannot communicate with Sugriva. Correct. From at that time, they don't have mobile phone or anything to communicate. They cannot communicate immediately. So what he told, Vali told, if in case Mayavi gets killed, you will see a milky fluid outside the burrow. He has the power to make that happen. Okay, so Vali made sure. Vali told that in case Mayavi gets killed, then only a milky fluid will come out of the burrow. In case I am getting killed, then blood will come out of the burrow. Like that, this Bali will give instruction to Sugriva, and he will not allow Sugriva to enter into the burrow because he wants to take the full credit himself of killing Maya. But this Maya, we overheard what instruction? Somehow he heard Vali's instruction. So at the time of Davi, so Sugriva saw blood coming out of the burrow. The reason is, even though Vali killed Mayavi through he has got the powers from his father Mayasura. He had learned so many powers, and with that he changed the milky fluid into blood. It was due to his activities that the blood came out of the burrow, and Vali saw blood, Sugriva saw blood coming out of the burrow. Then he thought, my brother is dead, and he wanted to save the kingdom of Kishkinda. So he closed as per Vali's instruction. He closed with a big rock. Also, he kept a hill, a small hill. Yes.
Why didn't he go inside to check on Sugriva?
Actually, Vali told you don't enter till I come. You don't enter. But when he heard Vali scream, as well as he heard the roars of other demons, then he could hear that Vali's sound became less, and no sound from Vali at all. And after some time, the demon sound also reduced, became zero. Then he tried to jump. When he tried to jump, blood came splashing. It was so much blood that he couldn't enter, and he decided, he was sure his brother is died, because otherwise because blood has come. It was Vali's instruction that if blood comes, that means I am dead. So blood came. So now the next, he was so much lamenting on his brother's death, but he wanted to save the country, so he closed. He didn't want any of the demons to come out, so he closed it. That was it. He tried.
Mataji, I have a doubt. When Vali came to the kingdom, why did Sugriva tell that he saw blood?
He said everything, Pavitra. He said everything. But Vali made it in such a way that Vali said, you conspired with the demons, and he made it in such a way that Sugriva arranged for all these fighting. Like that, he was blaming Sugriva, and he didn't allow. He was not ready to forgive.
Okay, Mataji.
So like that, and we saw that he was banished out of the country, and though he said that I begged you with my bowed head. Still, Bali was not ready. He banished him out of the country. Okay, now. So when Sugriva told all these things, and then we saw that Rama agreed that he will kill Vali, but Sugriva wanted to test Rama. Which are the two tests Sugriva gave? Anybody remembers?
He was taken to Maharshi Matang. No. He was taken to the place where Dundubi was thrown, and Rama kicked the bones with his left foot.
Yes. But then, very nice. Then, but again, Sugriva was not satisfied. He thought, now Rama is kicking only bones. But earlier, Dundubi killed Vali killed Dundubi when he was full of flesh and bones. No. So Sugriva was not satisfied. Then he put one more test. What was the next test? No idea. Vali, Vali at times what he will do, he will enjoy, like we all have, we all watch mobile and all for our happiness. What Vali used to do, he used to climb, he used to jump, and he used to bend trees, very big trees, and even he will play. He will jump in such a way that once he finishes his jumping and all, there will be no leaves in the tree. As well as he can shoot arrows with one arrow. He will shoot one arrow to each tree, and all the trees will become leafless. Like that, he used to enjoy. So now Sugriva told all these things. That is how Vali was. Like that, he will tell to Rama. Then Rama, what he will do, with a single arrow, there were 7 big trees in that area. With a single arrow, Rama pierced, that single arrow pierced all the trees, leaving them leafless, as well as that arrow, it pierced a mountain, then pierced the earth, and finally it came back to Rama. That was the 2 tests. Then Sugriva became very happy, and now they became ready to, he wanted to go to Kishkinda. So both of them, all the four people, whoever was with Sugriva, his ministers, they and Rama, they together, Rama Lakshmana, together they lived to Kishkinda. Okay, Kishkinda, this Rishyamugha mountain is outside Kishkinda. Okay, so now they went to Kishkinda, and as soon as he reached there, now in between Rama, the understanding which Rama had with Sugriva was that while these people will fight, Rama will send an arrow and he will kill Vali. Like that they decided, and he went. Sugriva, he went to reach the gates of Kishkinda, and he yelled at Vali. Because so many years he was troubled by Vali, no? With all the anger, he called Vali. Vali heard this, and if anybody calls Vali, Vali cannot withstand provocation. Okay, anybody challenges him, he will come ready for fighting. So Vali came. Vali was wondering, his brother, so far he was always scared of, Sugriva was scared of Vali. Now for the first time he is calling for a challenge. Vali came. Both of them, they moved to a little, Sugriva brought him little away in a particular place, and they both started fighting. A big fight. It was a very big fight. And what is Vali's speciality? What was Vali's speciality?
It could take
Pendant.
from the pendant. If he cannot handle it, the pendant takes the power from the.
Yes, after some time, Sugriva felt that all his power is going on. Okay, but all these acts are being watched by Rama and Lakshmana. Okay, what Rama did after some time, while the fierce batting was going on between Vali and Sugriva, you know what Lord Ram did? He quietly, he silently, he didn't say reason to anybody. All this Lakshmana, either to Lakshmana or to Hanumanji, Rama did not say anything at all. But he left that place. He moved away from that place. Lakshmana, seeing that Lakshmana also followed Rama, Hanumanji did not know what is happening. He also followed Rama. All the others, they thought why Rama is not helping their king. They were feeling very upset of Lord Rama, about Lord Rama, and they also have no other choice. They also left. In the meantime, Sugriva was fighting. He found that his energy is getting reduced. He's becoming weak. But he was at times he glanced at Rama whether he's there to shoot arrow and save him. When he turned back and he saw nobody, but to his surprise, nobody was there. Then Sugriva thought Rama has cheated me. He promised that he will save me. Hearing his words, I came here and picked up a fight with my brother. But now Rama is not there. Then Sugriva decided now the only way is to flee away from that place. Somehow he managed to push Vali aside and he ran away. And come back to Vali and Sugriva. Sugriva can run very fast. Vali was strong. Of course, Vali was very strong, but Sugriva can run very fast. So somehow he managed it. Vali was chasing him very closely.
Twins, right?
Pardon?
They both were twins, right? Or they look like twins.
Yes.
They both do the same.
Yes. Then see, they both, then finally, somehow Sugriva managed to enter into which mountain? Rishyamugha mountain. Because he knows Vali cannot step there. So Vali has had no other way. He just told, this is the last time. Next time if I meet you, I'll be killing you. Like that Vali said in anger. And he went back. Vali had to go back. Sugriva, by that time, Sugriva was very, very tired. Blood was flowing from his nose, ears and all. Somehow he managed and go up to his place, his cave, where he stays. He climbed up the Rishyamugha mountain, went there, and when he saw Lord Rama, he became so angry. He was very, very upset. He never expected that in between the fight, Rama will go away, and Rama had promised, now he will kill, but he didn't do that. So Sugriva became very sad and he asked Rama. Then let us see what Rama says. Pavitra, read Pavitra.
By ornamentation, attire, physicality, and movements, you and Vali look alike. By a voice, bodily glow, also in bravery and in speech, O monkey, I could not mark any difference.
Say when Rama is not able to mark any difference, how will he kill? If by mistake he kills Sugriva, what will happen? He will get sin, na? He will whether he will get sin or not. He will get sin because now he is going to kill. He is killing his friend who has given him shelter. So that was what else. Rama could not do anything else because from far away he could not differentiate. So that is why he came away from that place. Then Rama told this, and Rama told, now next time you are going to for a fight, but this time you will have a distinction, something you will have separate, special. Then he will tell Lakshmana, go and get a creeper, a particular creeper, Gaja creeper. It is, the name is like that. It is given. That creeper has the creeper. Get that creeper, which has very beautiful flowers. Bring that creeper and make a garland for Sugriva. Like that, Rama will instruct Lakshmana, and Lakshmana will get such a garland. Okay, and Sugriva will wear that garland. Actually, all this fight happened in the morning, children. In the same day, evening time, Sugriva will become ready with the garland to again pick up a fight with Vali. Now this time Sugriva understood what was the reason, and now he's very confident that this time surely Rama is going to help him. And then they both of them proceeded to Kishkinda again, and then again he challenged for Vali. See, this time also Vali now this time Sugriva's sound had more confidence than before, because now he's more sure that Rama will help him. But hearing his his call, Sugriva yelled at Vali and called him for a fight. And this time his wife, Sugriva's wife's name is Ruma, Vali's wife's name is Tara. So this time Tara is very good. Okay, though Vali is like that, Tara is very good. Tara told Vali, now don't, because it was evening time also, she was afraid. She told Vali, now don't go for a fight, because she has heard from their son Angad. From their son, she has heard that Rama and Lakshmana have come to the forest. Now Sugriva has made friendship with him. This all who knows? Tara knows. So Tara will tell all these things to Vali. Then Vali will not bother. Vali will say that what Rama will do. See, Rama is very dharmic, so he will never interfere into quarrel between monkeys. And so you don't worry, I am going to be the winner. Like that he will say. And something else also, Tara says. Ishan read.
Okay, Mother. Tara and Sugriva is your younger brother, and you should be kind to him, isn't it? And whether he is here or there in Rishyamukha, he is just your brother. Leave off his enmity and honor him, and accept him, and retain him at your side.
But Vali will not listen all these things. She will cry, but no use. Vali will go for the fight, and Tara will leave. She has no other way. Okay, then now the fight has started. Sugriva and Vali, Sugriva will run little far and bring him to the particular location wherein Rama, from there Rama can see them nicely, and he can send the arrow. Okay, again the fight will start. The fight will go on. Both of when Vali and Sugriva gets tired by fighting with their hands, they will start kicking with their legs. Then when they are tired, then they will start fighting with their tails. They will wrap each other and throw like that. It was a very big fight. Both the blood came from both the bodies of both of them. Then again, Vali's pendant started working. Sugriva's power started reducing, and you know what Vali will do? He will catch hold of Sugriva by his neck, and he will take him towards a big rock nearby. He wants to smash him on the rock. That is the next step, final step which Vali was doing. But all the people who were with Rama, they were all thinking why Rama is why Rama is still not saving. But the moment before, Vali was about to hit Sugriva on the rock. People wondered what happened. Suddenly, Vali's grip loosened, and Sugriva became free, and also at the same time, Vali fell down, just like how a big tree gets uprooted. With that sound, he fell down upon the ground. Then only they could understand what happened. Rama sent the arrow so quickly that nobody could notice when he is picking up the arrow, when he is sending. Rama sent the arrow pierced Vali's chest, and Vali fell down. He was suffering from great pain. Vali was suffering from the great pain, but he wanted to know who did it. Sugriva didn't do. Who has sent the arrow? Then he took the arrow. He looked at the arrow as his Rama's name in it. Then he understood it is Rama. Then he became very angry. Why Rama killed him? Then in few minutes Rama came in front of Vali. Though Vali had so much anger towards Rama, because he thought that Rama has done injustice. So even though he had so much anger towards Rama, the moment Lord Ram came before him, automatically his mind filled with respect, and he folded his hands towards Lord Rama. He folded his hands and spoke to Lord Rama, but he took control of himself and he said that. Then he asked, he started asking the questions. He asked, neither you nor me had any enmity. We did not have any enmity. Neither we had any clash for country, for women. There was no enmity at all. Then why, Rama? Why did you send the arrow? That was his first question. Correct question, no? Do you feel the question is okay? There was no enmity between them, but still, why you send that? That was the first question. Then the second word. Then he asked one more question. The second question was, you killed me, but you killed me like a hunter. No, like a hunter you killed me. You didn't come face to face, you didn't fight with me. Were you afraid, Rama? Were you afraid of my strength that you didn't come face to face and fight with me? That was the second question. And then he asked, generally people hunt animals for skin, for their teeth, in the case of elephant. Like that, don't know. There will be a purpose. But here, what was the purpose? What did you get by killing me? Like that, Vali asked. Then the last question, Vali asked, did I kill any Brahmana? Did I kill any woman? Did I kill any friend? Did I kill any cow? Did I kill any king? I didn't kill any of them. Then why did you kill me, Rama? Like that, Vali. Lord Rama will give, Lord Rama, he is concerned about the welfare of everybody in the world. Okay. So he will answer very nicely. He will answer all these questions. We will see that. Harinandan, read this, Harinandan.
I am killed by you while you remained invisible on the field of fight, just like a sinner bitten by a snake while he is asleep.
Rama, Vali was very, very angry. Okay, angry. He felt that he was cheated. Okay. Now Rama wins. Rama said, Rama answers each and every question asked by Vali. What was his first question, Krishna Priya? Remember, what was the first question asked by Vali?
First question was, they didn't have any enmity whatsoever. Then why did Rama do this to him?
The answer Rama gave us, see, the Ishwagu dynasty, that is the Dasharatha and all, okay, they were the emperors, they were the emperor. Emperor means the entire earth is under their jurisdiction. So Rama being a Kshatriya, see, Bharata is ruling the land. But Rama and Lakshmana, they are sent to the forest. So it is their responsibility to take care of everybody in that forest. So he's justified in killing, So the Vali is not very good. So we know what all things he did. He abducted Sugriva's wife, and he abused Sugriva and vanished him and tried to kill him. And then what else? Those people who supported Sugriva, Vali did not spare them also. So as being a Kshatriya, being a Kshatriya, it is his duty, Rama's duty, to take care of the people. So he has to punish Vali, right? So there is no need of enmity. It is he has done his duty. And what was the second question, Shriya, which Vali asked?
You did not kill me face to face. That one.
And you see, there are two reasons you can say. See, Rama told hunters how Vali is an animal, right? He has powers. These animals, they have very good powers. That is why they are called Vanaras. But he being an animal, Rama, see how we will kill the animal. We'll go face to face. We'll go in front of animal and we'll fight with them. No, that is not the way. No. So Rama is justified because he is an animal. There is nothing wrong in hiding and sending arrow. And moreover, imagine if Rama came face to face with Vali. Vali has that pendant. That pendant will will try to take half Rama's energy, which Vali's body cannot withstand at all. Like how it happened when Vali fought with Hanumanji. His body could not bear Hanumanji's strength at all. Little bit strength also, and he fell unconscious. So even something worse than that would have happened if Rama comes and fights face to face. Okay, so that was the second. And Tejaswini, do you remember the third question which Vali asked?
Yes, Mataji. The hunters usually kill for some reason. For example, if they kill the elephant for the tusk, But what did you? Why did you kill me? What did you get from killing me?
He will say, Rama will say, I didn't kill you for getting any benefit. For my benefit, I didn't kill you. I just killed you because of your misdeeds. What happens, children? Generally, people do sin, no? If they are not punished by the king, they will have to suffer. But if the king gives punishment, already the punishment is given for the sin, then he is relieved of, he is removed all the sin, that sin goes away. Like that. So here in Vali's case also like that only. Rama killed him, so he has given punishment for all his misdeeds. Now Vali's soul can go to higher worlds because he has already got the punishment. And moreover, Rama being a king, if a king has a lot of responsibility. If a king doesn't fulfill his responsibility, then the king is the sinner. It is not the sinner who will take the sin. The sin, its part will go to who also? The king also. So Rama is so. Now Tejaswini, read this. Read the next one. Wait.
This punishment is imposed on you for your sinful act of mistreating your brother's wife. The king who does not impose proper punishment will get sin.
Now, what is the what is the fourth question which he asked? Vali asked. Who will answer? Anybody can volunteer. What is the fourth question? Vali asked, did I kill these people? He asked something like that.
Brahmins, woman.
Brahmin, woman, cow, friend, or king. He asked. To which Rama said, you did the biggest mistake. Vali, you did the biggest mistake. As an elder brother, you are supposed to treat your younger brother like your son. And a younger brother or a good disciple has to be treated like son. But Vali, you failed in that. You abducted your brother's wife, who is supposed to be like your daughter-in-law, but you abducted her and made her your wife. And moreover, you abused your others. You know, Sugriva was very submissive, but still you mistreated, you troubled him so much. So this punishment is for that. Okay, children. So even Bhagavad Gita says, children, it gives, I forgot those 6 kind of aggressors. They have to be given severe punishment. And one is like abducting somebody else's wife, and also like that. So Rama is justified. Don't you think, children, Rama is justified? If you see in many states, like even I'm talking about Tamil Nadu and all, there people will hold debates on so many subjects. Sometimes they will take spiritual matters also. Even now they debate on whether Rama did right, whether Rama did wrong. They will say like that, children. So do you all agree that Rama did right, or anybody has any difference of opinion? All agree, no? So see, whom we will ask, who is the best person to answer this? Who is the best person? Vali himself, no? Now we will see what Vali has to say. Agila can read this?
Yes, Mataji. Vali then replied Rama with adjoined palms, O best one among men, what all you have said is proper, undoubtedly. I blamed you when your arrow injured me. I blamed you without proper thinking, for which I may please be pardoned. I request you for the same.
Vali understood what all had happened. Now Vali will say one more thing. Rama, when you go back to your country after the 14 years, when your brothers ask me, or when sometimes if your brothers may blame Sugriva that he was the cause for my killing me, then you should tell Rama, please tell your brothers that Sugriva has taken only the material kingdom. Now Sugriva will become the king because Vali will be no more. But Vali is going to get the spiritual world because he is killed by, he got relieved, all his sins are wiped away, as well as because he is killed by Lord Rama, he will get the spiritual world. And you know what Vali will do? Vali will call, by the time Tara, his wife, will come, she will be very angry with the Lord Rama. But Hanumanji will make her understand that Vali is suffering because of all his past deeds. Then Tara will also understand, and Vali will call his son Angad. You know, though Vali was very cruel by nature, he loved his son very much. He called his Angad near to him, and he told Angad, now you should, throughout your life, you should serve Lord Ram. You should listen to Sugriva as well as you should serve Lord Ram because he is Dharma personified. Lord Rama is Dharma personified. Anybody who follows him, who serves his Lord, will say to Angad, and one last time he will look at Lord Rama. At that time, his mind is full of love and respect for Lord Ram. He will looking at Lord, leave the body like that. He will go to spiritual world to serve Lord Ram. Understood, children? Any doubt? Then then after this, so like that, Bali attains moksha by the blessing of Lord Rama, and then finally, now the next step. What is the next step? Next step, the country has to be taken care. Now it should be under proper care. Now it will be everywhere. Sugriva wanted him to be crowned by Lord Ram because Lord Ram gave him this all these, no. So he wanted Lord Ram to come and make him the king. But Rama said he will not come because he has taken the vow for 14 years. He will not enter into any country. So he said he cannot come. He sent Lakshmana. Then Lakshmana went along with others to the kingdom in the kingdom of Kishkinda and made then what happened? Krishna Priya, read.
Sugriva is anointed as king and Angada crown prince of Kishkinda.
Like that. Even Vali also got moksham by the mercy of Lord Ram. Okay, children, any doubts, children? I think the time is up, no, my dear?
That must be 6:30 sharp.
And one last line also I wanted to tell. See, now it is going to start, rainy season is going to start, okay? So Rama will tell Sugriva, you go to your country, you be there, you become the king, enjoy your time as a ruler. And these 4 months is very difficult, rainy season. So now we will stop the search for a while, and we will, after the rainy season gets over, after the month of Kartik starts, you come back, we will start our mission. Like that, Rama will say. See, coincidentally, see, now for us also Kartik month is starting, no? It is almost same time, no, children? So like that, now the 4 months, they are going to wait. Rama will wait along with Lakshmana in a mountain called Malyavan. They went towards Malyavan. Others then proceeded towards the kingdom, and all these happened. Crowning of Sugriva. Okay, children?
Children, from tomorrow,
Thank you, Prabhuji. That's all.
Kartik Mass is starting tomorrow. So all of you know how to do Damodara Aarti, no? Everybody knows, no? So if someone doesn't know, please you can request in the group and somebody will explain it to you. Okay, Shriya can explain how to do. Okay. Okay. So from tomorrow onwards, everybody make sure that you do Damodara Aarti at least 2 times, morning and evening. Okay, at least 2 times. If you can do 3 times, very nice. So you have to do Damodara Aarti step by step. How to do, Shriya will explain in the group. Okay, Shriya. Or if you have any video or something, you can share also, so that children know. And
yes,
also the glories of this Kartika Mass, if somebody, if Shriya can just write in small points, and might be a few points of the glories of Kartik Mass. If you can, please share in the group, Shriya. Okay?
Sure, Prabhuji.
Okay. Thank you so much, children. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Prabhu.